The Enlightenment, revolutionary ideas that shaped modern governance. Imagine a time when monarchs ruled with absolute power, and the idea that the people could shape their government seemed almost impossible. In a world where monarchies and the church held the reins of power, a group of philosophers and revolutionaries came together to ask one fundamental question: what if we could create a government based on reason, equality, and liberty? This was the world of the Enlightenment, a period that transformed human history and laid the foundation for modern democracy. In this video, we'll explore the ideas that sparked revolutions and changed governance forever. What was the Enlightenment? The Enlightenment, also known as the Age of Reason, was a time when intellectuals across Europe began to challenge centuries of tradition, superstition, and authority. It started in the 1600s and flourished in the 18th century. But it wasn't just about reading books or writing essays. It was a radical rethinking of how people should live and govern themselves. It was about pushing boundaries, asking tough questions, and imagining a world where individuals were free to think, act, and pursue happiness on their own terms. Key ideas of the Enlightenment. At its core, the Enlightenment was about the power of reason. Thinkers during this period believed that by using reason, humans could solve problems, improve society, and create a fairer world. It was also about liberty. People should be free from the tyranny of absolute rulers and the influence of the church on their lives. This period championed human rights and individual freedoms, laying the intellectual groundwork for modern democracy. Story of John Locke and the foundations of democracy. Let's start with John Locke, one of the most influential thinkers of the Enlightenment. Locke argued that all individuals are born with natural rights to life, liberty, and property. These weren't privileges granted by kings, but fundamental human rights that no one could take away. Locke's ideas were so influential that they directly shaped the founding of the United States. When the Declaration of Independence was written, it echoed Locke's belief that all men are created equal and that people have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's no coincidence that Locke's ideas inspired the American Revolution, as colonists fought to break free from the tyranny of British rule. The social contract and its impact. Another key thinker was Jean-Jacques Rousseau, whose ideas about the social contract challenged the idea of absolute monarchies. Rousseau believed that in a truly free society, individuals would give up some of their personal freedoms in exchange for collective governance. His idea was that a general will, the collective will of the people, would guide the laws and decisions of the state. Rousseau's philosophy would later inspire political movements around the world, including the French Revolution. Story of Montesquieu and the separation of powers. Then we have Baron de Montesquieu, a French philosopher who believed in the separation of powers in government. Montesquieu argued that in order to prevent tyranny, power should not be concentrated in the hands of one ruler or a single institution. Instead, government should be divided into three branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. Real-life impact, the American Revolution. Let's talk about how these ideas didn't just stay in the realm of theory, but actively influenced real-world revolutions. The American Revolution was directly inspired by Enlightenment thinkers. When the American colonies declared their independence in 1776, they rejected the monarchy and embraced a new system of government based on reason and individual rights. The U.S. Constitution, which was adopted in 1787, reflected the Enlightenment's emphasis on liberty, the separation of powers, and the idea that government should serve the people, not the other way around. Story of Voltaire and the fight for civil liberties. Another major figure in the Enlightenment was Voltaire, a French writer and philosopher known for his sharp wit and criticism of the French monarchy and the Catholic Church. Voltaire was a staunch advocate for freedom of speech, religious tolerance, and civil liberties. In fact, his writings helped fuel revolutionary movements in both France and the United States. The French Revolution, from Enlightenment ideas to action. The French Revolution in 1789 was another turning point that demonstrated the power of Enlightenment thinking. The French people, inspired by Rousseau's ideas of equality and Montesquieu's separation of powers, rose up against King Louis XVI. The Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen, written during the Revolution, echoed the Enlightenment's core values: liberty, equality, and fraternity. Story of the abolition of slavery. The Enlightenment's ideas about human rights and equality also paved the way for the abolition of slavery. Enlightenment thinkers argued that slavery was incompatible with the notion of natural rights, that all people, regardless of race or status, had inherent rights to freedom. As a result, movements to abolish slavery gained traction in the 18th century, and nations like Britain and the United States began to outlaw the practice. Story of Mary Wollstonecraft and the fight for women's rights. The Enlightenment wasn't just concerned with political freedom, it also began to address issues of gender inequality. Mary Wollstonecraft, an English writer and philosopher, is often considered one of the first advocates for women's rights. In her groundbreaking work, A Vindication of the Rights of Woman, Wollstonecraft argued that women should have the same rights as men, including the right to education and political participation. How the Enlightenment shaped modern governance. Even today, the ideas of the Enlightenment shape the world we live in. The principles of democracy, human rights, freedom of expression, and the separation of powers are at the core of most modern governments. Countries around the world are still grappling with these Enlightenment ideals as they seek to create fairer, more just societies. Story of the global impact of the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment didn't just shape Europe and America, it had a profound impact on the entire world. In Latin America, for example, Enlightenment ideas fueled the independence movements that led to the formation of new republics. Leaders like Simón Bolívar were inspired by the principles of liberty and self-determination, which led to the liberation of many Latin American nations from colonial rule. The Enlightenment was a time of radical thinking, one that questioned old systems, shattered oppressive traditions, and laid the intellectual groundwork for the modern world. From Locke's natural rights to Rousseau's social contract, from Montesquieu's separation of powers to Voltaire's fight for free speech, the Enlightenment gave us ideas that continue to shape the way we govern ourselves. So, next time you enjoy a free election, express your opinion, or question authority, remember the revolutionary thinkers who made it all possible. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The Social Lens for more deep dives into the ideas that have shaped our world. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring,